You know what? That Detroit game really changed some grades. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Lombardi Time Brews, where I'm your host, John Del Rey. Today, looking at the offense. Yeah, it's basically the quarter mark of the season. The NFL really screwed that up when they went to 17 games, but we're close. 4 games now through the season, kind of in a mini bye right now, as well as we're waiting for Monday Night Football. But here we are taking a look at the offense today. Tomorrow morning, I decided to break this into a 2-part series. So tomorrow you're going to get the defense from me. That's right, taking a look at all of the positions on the defense. Now, the Packers at this point, we know, are 2-2. They have faced a bevy of injuries, but they've also had a number of self-inflicted mistakes as well that have led them to ultimately a 2-2 record that at least I'm personally pretty okay with. The 2 losses were fairly disappointing, but nonetheless, 2-2 is about where we expected this team to be, so can't really be all bad. And the grades do tend to reveal that. Now, as we go through position by position, like I said in the opening, the Detroit game really did attempt to change some of these grades. But as we go through the stats, look at the players, we're looking at the overall trend. I also didn't get into B+ or D- or just whole letter grades. Think of it as like a collegiate system. So we're going full letter grades, talking each position. And first up, of course, would be the quarterback position, Jordan Love. And Tom Clements, the quarterback coach, was quoted this week as saying, "He's confirmed our thoughts. He's a good player." Yeah, basically to this point, thus far into the season, he is 74 for 132. That's only a completion percentage of 56%, but he does have the highest average depth of target in the NFL at 10.3 yards per target. He's thrown for 901 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He has a quarterback rating of 88. And like I said, with the Detroit game, it used to be about 100. Now it's 88. He's been sacked 8 times, which the quarterback does play a little bit part into. Jordan's no exception. But perhaps even, a different note, let's say, running the ball. 16 carries for 72 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 5 first downs. That means that he's got a success rate on his runs of getting the desired outcome, either a first down or a touchdown, on 7 of 16 of his quarterback runs. And that is a very favorable rate. The coaches have also talked about how Jordan Love is running at the right times. He's not just looking like this skittish young QB who's just taking off all the time because he can't find someone. He's running when they would say, now's the time to run. And ultimately for Jordan, what we've seen thus far is we've seen the big arm with varied accuracy, but we've still seen it. We've seen mostly correct decision-making. We've seen a great level of mobility, and perhaps bigger than all of that, we've seen his level of poise. We talked in training camp about his poise, about how he just couldn't be rattled. Now, Matt LaFleur talking earlier this week about how even when Detroit was coming at him, getting 5 of those sacks, getting 2 of those picks, Jordan could not be rattled. He stood in the pocket, took the hit, and still delivered the ball as he could. One of the most encouraging things about Jordan Love to this juncture is, yes, he does have 3 interceptions, but against Detroit, I'd argue where 2 of those picks came, neither one of those were even really turnover-worthy plays, if you want to get into that, because one, Romeo Doubs probably should have stayed where he was, where Love was directing him, but instead he ran to the back corner of the end zone, which is something he wasn't supposed to do until Love broke the pocket, which Love did not break the pocket. And the other one was, of course, a tipped pass. So you've got 3 picks, maybe 2 of them aren't even turnover worthy. Jordan, his accuracy remains a work in progress. But a lot of the technical side of being a quarterback, the decision-making, the footwork, the knowing when to run versus when to not, that's looked pretty good. I got to give an overall grade of a B to the young quarterback. Now, the running back position. As we know, of course, Aaron Jones has missed some time, but that's not an excuse when you're grading things. Aaron Jones, 14 carries, 59 yards for a wonderful per carry average of 4.2 yards a carry. A.J. Dillon, the lead back thus far this year, 44 carries for 118 yards. That's a measly 2.7 average. Emmanuel Wilson, who a lot of Packer fans are putting their hopes on, 5 carries in 4 games for a total of 11 yards, 2.2 average. And then Patrick Taylor, 9 carries for 29 yards, a 3.2 average. Zach Cruz put out on Twitter earlier today that Jones and Dillon combined have got 12 runs that have gained 5 or more yards. Good. Bad. They have 14 runs that have gained nothing or negative yardage. You don't want that number to be higher than the other one, and yet here we are. In terms of rushing for first downs, A.J. Dillon leads the team. And I know this is a cumulative stat, so it's kind of hard to say with Aaron Jones in there. But look, rushing for first downs, A.J. Dillon has 6. Jordan Love has 5. You really don't want your quarterback that close to your running back, and yet here we are. But running the ball is not exclusively what running backs do. We know that they also catch the ball. So looking at the receiving stats for Dillon and Jones, Dillon's 3 for 5 for 25 yards and 1 drop. Aaron Jones, 3 for 6 for 82 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 drops. That, again, less than ideal. So let's be mindful that Aaron Jones has missed 2 games. And against the Chicago game, or against Chicago, he was a revelation. Against Detroit, yes, in a very, very limited role, he didn't exactly pull off anything wondrous. And A.J. Dillon, as we know, running back coach Ben Simmons has been talking about how he just needs to go play. Well, he also needs to stop stumbling. It's a problem. Emmanuel Wilson, who the preseason leader in rushing yards, hasn't been able to get his footing either. 5 carries for 11 yards. Patrick Taylor, who's been called up for 3 games from the practice squad, he has had relatively minimal impact in the run game. He's done some nice things as a pass blocker, done some okay work as a receiver, but still when it comes to running the ball, it's been deficient. And I know this isn't exclusively on the running backs. A lot of this has to do with the offensive line. And we'll get to them for sure. But the running back play to this point has been subpar. And for a team that was supposed to be able to lean on its 2-star running backs, 4 weeks into the season, that has not been the case. I got to give an overall grade of a D. And maybe that one's higher if Jones plays more, but he hasn't. So the reality is they've earned a D. Looking at the wide receiver position, I'm not going to lie to you, this is a grade I really struggled with. Because you've seen the flashes of potential, the brilliance, the playmaking. You've also seen a couple of drops. You've seen wrong routes ran. It's all there. This wide receiver group is truly all-encompassing in what they do, both the good and the bad. So let's take a look at the stats. Romeo Doubs, the obvious leader in that room to this point, 20 receptions on 32 targets for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns. According to PFF, he has a 75.8 receiving grade to this point. Jaden Reed, 12 receptions, 23 targets, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, along with 2 drops, 69.9 PFF grade. Dontavian Wicks, the rookie, 6 catches, 13 targets, 85 yards, 1 touchdown, 56.8 PFF grade. Samari Toure, 4 catches on 9 targets for 59 yards, 66.5 PFF grade. Malik Heath, 0 catches on 4 targets, yet to get his first NFL catch, 51.5 PFF grade. And then Christian Watson, who played very, very tiny amount against Detroit, 2 catches and 4 targets for 25 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 60.5 PFF grade. The thing is, the potential's there. The playmaking is there, just like I said, right? But there's been times where this receiver group hasn't been able to separate at all. Like at all. And they haven't been doing very well with the contested catch rates either. They're in the bottom half of the NFL in terms of whether they actually catch the ball in contested catch situations or not. Now, Christian Watson, one of the better contested catch receivers in the NFL, he will certainly help with that, but he hasn't been there yet. So overall, this receiver group does a ton of good and some bad. And I think to this point, they've kind of balanced each other out because the wide receivers, along with Love, have been to blame for some just drives just stalling out. So let's just give them a middle of the road grade. C. The tight end position. Now here, the tight ends obviously do more than one thing, and they haven't had nearly the role that the running backs or the wide receivers have had. And you can make the argument, well, because that's because they're not as good. But let's just take a look at the numbers. Luke Musgrave, 12 catches on 16 targets for 125 yards. In terms of blocking, he's gotten a PFF grade of 62.6 run blocking and an even 50 pass blocking, allowing 1 pressure. Josiah DeGuara, 6 targets, 6 catches. We like that for a total of 39 yards. But his blocking, 39.5 run blocking, 49.2 pass blocking. Now, granted, these aren't many snaps that we're talking about as we're getting into blocking outside of Musgrave. DeGuara to this point has had 41 run blocking snaps, an average just over 10 per game, and a pass blocking grade 49.2 on only 9 pass blocking snaps. Looking at Tucker Kraft, 2 catches, 2 targets, 5 yards, both rather minimal catches. Run blocking grade of 50.9 on 19 snaps, and a pass blocking grade of 74.5 on 4 pass blocking snaps. Ben Sims, run blocking grade 52.3 on 16 run blocking snaps, 73.4 on 4 pass blocking snaps, and nary a stat in the receiving category. But the nice thing is about DeGuara, Kraft, Sims, all of them put together, there have been no pressures allowed. And yeah, you may have noticed I'm just lumping DeGuara in with the tight end. This group, and maybe it's just because my expectations were overall lower for this group, but in reality, they've done some nice things, not as many nice things as the wide receivers. And they've done some bad things, but not nearly as many bad things as the wide receivers. And so I think they get just barely a leg up in, granted, much, much smaller numbers of opportunities. So overall, let's go with the grade of a B. And this group, one of the groups on the team, along with wide receiver, along with some of the defensive ones that we'll get to tomorrow, has the ability through the final 3 quarters of the season to really progress that grade and do some outstanding work. Musgrave, has he been perfect to this point? No, but boy, you see the potential. It's there. He can become a playmaker for this team once he starts consistently getting the ball and more opportunities. Now, the offensive line. Now, look, you want to talk about Detroit trading some grades, right? The thing is, 3 games into the year, this group was sure there were some run blocking deficiencies, but pass blocking, they were immaculate. I mean, like best in the NFL kind of immaculate. So let's take a look at some composite rankings, right? These come from Ben Baldwin, who every week puts together a combination ranking from PFF, ESPN's win block rate, and then also SIS. So for pass blocking, even right now, after the Detroit game, they are still 5th in the NFL in pass blocking. In terms of run blocking, they rank 16th in the NFL in run blocking. And pass blocking, even after Detroit, that's about where I expected it to be. Yes, Detroit was awful, right? And we can go into why it was awful, be it injuries, being just out muscled, whatever. Yes, Detroit was bad. However, the first 3 games before that were truly immaculate, right? And yes, this unit has lost David Bakhtiari for probably the rest of the year. Elton Jenkins has missed half of the time thus far, certainly less than ideal. So, bearing all of that in mind, pass blocking is about where I expected it to be. Run blocking, that's honestly a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. But keep in mind, basically every line in the NFL this year sucks. Like the offensive line is truly the case of the haves and the have-nots. And this Packer offensive line was never built to run block. This is a pass blocking unit. Josh Myers, John Runyon Jr., both probably a little below average at run blocking, above average pass blocking. Zach Tom, better at pass blocking than run blocking. Elton Jenkins is really your one kind of mauler on the line. And organizationally in the future, is this something they need to change? Yeah, probably. But at the same time, the pass is more important than the run, and it would really help out the line if the running backs started making better decisions, and it would really help out the running backs if the line started blocking better. Basically, in total, the run game is just a mess at this point. And it's both parties vastly involved. But still, at the end of the day, passing is more important in the modern NFL than running the ball. Because as I talked about the other day, even running the ball, if it's 1 yard, 0 yards, whatever, the data is there on a league-wide scale. You don't have to run the ball well. You just have to do it in order to set up the pass. And if we're just talking pass, the Green Bay Packers are an exceptional pass blocking unit. What we really need to hope for is health, because getting Elton Jenkins back will make a massive deal for this entire line, Josh Myers included, John Runyon Jr. included. Elton Jenkins' presence helps all of them. To this point, though, the grade's got to be a B. I will say, though, The more Royce Newman plays, the lower that grade gets. He's given up 9 pressures in 2 games. He's leading the team in pressures given up in 2 games. For the love of God, stop it. Stop trotting him out there. You have better options. And even if you don't, it's going to get worse. I doubt it. So let's go with the grade of a B. Join me tomorrow as I take a look at the defensive grades. I'll update the injury report for you as well. As we know, Elton Jenkins, Eric Stokes, they are now practicing. So I will update that further as I know more tomorrow. But thank you so much for tuning in today. Check out the defensive grades tomorrow. And as always, go Pack Go.